All right, so Emanuela, you had a question before we went on our break. You can go ahead with your question.
Oh, it wasn't a question per se. I'm just saying if that type of business does have a petty cash system, if that is not recorded properly, then I guess the balance won't be correct.
Yeah, well, typically if persons are the ones working for you, then that is something that you would also have to be cognizant of. But if you are the one managing your own finances, such as the majority of you ladies on the call, then you would of course be expected to keep track of everything. So putting together the profit and loss statement at the end of the month, but the cash receipts and payments journal has to be done daily. So that is your way of tracking. So all monies that you got in and all monies that you spent, you must keep the receipts so that you can keep track of everything that you do, all the transactions, and you put that in that journal, and that needs to be done daily. So there are documents that you complete daily, and there are documents that you complete monthly. Okay, and that is the way that you track your finances. All right. Let us continue where we left off from. Let me just go ahead and share my screen, and then we will continue. All right, let's go ahead.
In Course 9, we discussed that your business will have direct and indirect expenses. For example, your business may have costs for things like ingredients, wages, rent, or utilities. When you make these payments, you will need to record them in your cash receipts and payments journal. When I write business checks or pay cash, I make sure to record them immediately. For example, I wrote check number 1368 to my landlord on October 2nd for $400 for rent. After I wrote the check, I recorded this in my cash receipts and payments journal. I also noted what business expense this check was for.
Okay, so just to briefly and quickly recap what she just said. The cash receipts and payments journal, as you can see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. 8 columns, again, I say 8 columns. And then of course, the rows depend on how many transactions you would have done for that particular date, okay? You can do it day by day, and you can also do it week by week. You can also do it month by month. But the thing about it is, as soon as a transaction is complete, whether money goes out or money comes in, you record it. Okay, if you have it on a scrap, fine, and then at the end of the day you transfer it to your journal so that it is done in a neat way, in an organized way, then you can do it that way. Okay, so what they're saying is that she wrote a check for her rent. What does that look like on the cash receipts payment journal? That is an expense. Rent is money paid out, so that is an expense. Okay, so the date that she wrote the check number appears here. The details would be the person she wrote the check to. Okay, the amount, so the amounts come here, whether it's negative or positive, whether it's money going out or money coming in, it goes under the amount section. Okay, so this here shows the balance of her account. So whatever account that you are using for your business, for your transactions, this is what the balance is. So that's what the balance actually shows. So your starting off balance before your transaction start for the day, your last balance would go here, which would be your beginning balance. And then you start your transactions. So in this case, money went out. That's the very first transaction for the day, money went out. So from the $4,264.38 she started off with, when the money went out, she had to subtract $400 from her beginning balance, and that now left her with $3,864.38. Again, let's take a look at that. So the first row has her beginning balance before any transactions began. Okay, so we have the date, the details would be beginning balance, the account balance would be what the figure you see here. So in your case, whatever your account balance before monies go in or out would be here. There's nothing that comes in the revenues, expenses, or anything like that. The next transaction, or the first transaction where the money goes in or money goes out, would come next. Okay? So you immediately perform the transaction, the calculation, I should say. If it's money going out, you immediately subtract the amount from the beginning balance and you put the balance after along that row here. If it's money that came in, you add it to your beginning balance and then the total would come here in the new account balance column. Okay, now because the money went out, it is an expense. And what was she paying? She was paying rent. So under the expense column, she would put rent. Okay, so sorry, under the expense column, she would put the amount, the $400, and the description would be rent. Everybody get that? I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Now, of course, the next transaction was a deposit. So that's money that came in. So after her balance of $3,864, she took in $134 cash. Okay, so she deposited that money. That was a cash deposit. 134, which would be the amount. And she added the 134 to the last balance, and that brought up her balance to $3,998. What was that? A revenue or an expense? It was revenue because money came in. And what was the amount of that revenue? $134. What were the details? Revenue. Okay. The next one was money that she paid out. That was $100. She paid it to the electric company. So then she had to minus the $100 from her last balance. The $100 would come under the expense column. And then what would be that electric company description? That's for utilities. That will be the description. Okay, so this is the procedure that you use when putting in information into the cash receipts and payments journal. Okay, so this particular document, because it is private to you, you only share it with persons involved in your business because it has your account information on it. Everybody understands that. It's not something that you go about sharing with people. Your employees don't need to see this. Your managers don't need to see this. This is only for persons directly involved in your business, such as your co-founder, your accountant, and whatever else. If you are the one managing your finances, then this document doesn't need to be shared with anyone, unless you go to, let's say, for example, a financial institution and you were looking for a loan and so on and so forth, then of course you need to show a statement or track record of your finances. They want to see. What's your track record like? What's your cash flow looking like? Otherwise, this is information that is beneficial to you, but you need to keep this journal because at some point you will need to produce this when you are going to look for a loan. Everybody understands that? Okay, let's move on.
Here's your chance to try it out. Here's my cash receipts and payments journal for the first part of October. I've recorded my beginning balance, which was my checking account balance at the end of September. I have several items to enter into my journal. Can you help me update my checking account balance and put each amount where it belongs, either in the revenue column or the expenses column? Type your answers into the blanks. Not all blanks require input. That is, don't put a number in a blank if that item doesn't apply. When you're finished, select Submit.
Okay, so this is where we go into our classwork. Okay, so I'm going to be calling upon each of you to give me the answer as to where to put what. Okay, so I went through the explanation on the previous slide because this is what we're preparing for. Since everybody said they understood, then everybody should be able to get this correct. Okay, so let's see. The beginning balance, can everybody see what the beginning balance is? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
It's clear.
All right, so with that being said, we are looking at the beginning balance. Now, what we want to do, we want to figure out, first of all, what do we do after we see what happens in the next column, the next row, sorry. So the next row says 2nd of October, check number 138 or 1368, paid to Ariana Rodriguez, and the amount came out of the checking account, $400. Can Abigail Charlie tell me, what do I need to do now? What's my first calculation? Abigail Charlie says the first calculation is expenses. Is she correct?
Yes.
Okay, so she says it would be deducted. Can you tell me what should I be deducting? Can you please tell me what the figures are? Instruct me as to what I should do. So she said from the beginning balance. Okay, so Abigail Charlie, since you're telling me what that is, can you please tell me what that figure would be after the deduction? Just waiting on you for that response, Abigail Charlie. What would be that amount after the deduction? Okay, so she said it's 386438. Is she correct? Is she correct?
Yes, she is.
Yes, she is.
Okay, and where should I put that figure, Abigail? Abigail Charlie, where should I put that figure? The 3864.38, where should I put it? Okay, so she said account balance. All right, so let's put that in here, 3864.38. Okay, and you said that the next amount was, the next column was expenses. So expenses. All right, so that was rent. Okay, so next person, Claelle, tell me, what is the next transaction and what should I do?
The next transaction is to add the $154 to the 3,864.38 and add the one and place the 134 into revenue.
Okay, so you said to add the 134 to the 3864.38. What would that figure be?
$3,998.38.
Okay, is she correct, everybody?
Yeah, she is.
Correct.
Okay, and you said it goes under revenue, Kyle?
Yes.
Okay. All right then. Okay, so next person, let's go to Marla. Marla, what is the next transaction? Tell me, what do I need to do? Yes, Marla, what do I need to do next?
Means you have to you have to subtract the 136 by the 3998.
The 136, what 136 are you talking about?
The electric
Yes, so what's the amount that I need to subtract?
means you have to subtract the 1369 by the 3998.
The 1369 is the check number. The area that you have to look at is the amount to checking account. That's the column that you have to be
Okay.
looking at.
Okay. So you have to subtract the yes now because my keep on closing. The 100 by the 1369.
No. Vernon, can you assist her, please?
You need to deduct the $100 from the 3,998.38, which gives you 3,898.38, and it is an expense utilities.
Okay, thank you very much, Vernon. Can you explain to Marla what columns she needed to be looking at?
You need to be looking at the amount to check-in account, which is the $100 in the red. So you would deduct that from the new checking account balance of 3,998.38, which now gives you 3,898.38. And to the right, it's an expense and it's a utility for your description.
Okay, thank you, Vernon. Marla, do you understand?
Yes, miss.
Are you sure?
Yes, miss. At first I wasn't paying attention, that's why.
I appreciate you being honest. I
Yes.
appreciate your honesty. So moving forward, please pay very close attention because this is why we're doing this in class together. Because when the assignment comes on your own, you will not be getting assistance from me, okay?
Okay.
All right, excellent. Okay, so ladies, let us look at our cash receipts and payments journal. Is everything complete? Are we missing anything at all?
No.
Okay, so let's submit and see how we did.
Nice job. You've correctly placed the amounts in the correct spots. As you can see, my current checking account balance is $3,898.38.
Excellent job, ladies. You did a wonderful, wonderful job. This means that you understood how to read and you understood how to put in information into the cash receipts and payments journal. So you should be able to do this on your own, okay? With more practice, that is. So if in case you didn't get it the first time, please feel free to keep reviewing this section of Dream Builder. Okay, let's move on.
Your business should have its own checking account. This allows you to separate your business deposits and payments from your personal finances. My accountant also told me to reconcile my business checking account every month. Reconciling is when you compare your monthly bank statement to your company financial records. I was very worried about doing this because, like I already told you, I'm not a math person. However, my cash receipts and payments journal makes it easy to reconcile my checking account. My bank usually prints out a bank statement each month and sends it to me. I reconcile my business checking account by comparing this statement against what I've recorded in my cash receipts and payments journal. These are the two things that I look for. First, any deposits listed in my cash receipts and payments journal that haven't been received or recorded by the bank. And second, any checks recorded in my cash receipts and payments journal that the bank hasn't paid out yet. I make note of these items. Then, I compare my cash receipts and payments journal against my bank statement and make sure that everything else matches. Because I spend a little time every day recording my deposits and my checks, it only takes me about 30 minutes at the end of each month to make sure that everything is properly recorded and matches. If they don't match, there are only two possible reasons. Either I did not record something correctly, or the bank made an error. This comparison helps me to find and correct any problems.
Now, I feel it necessary to pause here for a while and go through this again, okay? Because you need to understand why this is extremely, extremely important, okay? So here she's saying that you need to reconcile your account monthly. Now, the account she's referring to is the account that you use for your business transactions. The only way you can reconcile an account is if it is only being used for your business. So if you're using your personal account, then it becomes very difficult and very time consuming to go through your personal account looking for the business transactions and picking it out of the personal transactions. That is why it is highly recommended that you open an account strictly for the business. Okay, so you can have your personal account, that's fine, but open a second one, but use that one strictly for the business until you meet the criteria. Now, what she's doing there, reconciling, means that you are comparing your documents that you use every single month or every day and comparing that to what the bank says that is happening in the account. Because of course, you need to ensure that everything is being recorded correctly and everything is being recorded as often as it needs to be recorded. Again, this is important when you are looking to get a loan. This is also important when you're looking to see what is your cash flow like in your account. Okay, now when you look at your bank statements, of course, your bank statements can show back up to 30 days. It's your choice. I'm not sure whether your bank would charge you for that. But if you have online banking, you can simply print this out off of your computer. Okay, and what you do, you compare the monies that came into the account on your bank statement, and you compare that to your cash receipts and payments journal of the monies that you deposited. All right, and you have to ensure that those figures match. The dates match, the figures match. All right, and then you also want to look at monies that left the account. So monies that were taken out. Typically, these would be monies that you would have used to pay for something. Okay, now if you are using a checking account, again, this is only if you're using a checking account. You need to ensure that when you have paid monies out or written checks, you need to ensure that there are monies in the account. Can anybody tell me why?
So going to overdraft.
It can go into overdraft. And what can that mean with you and the bank?
Added bank fees. That's a loan.
Fees, penalties, yes. And it also does something to the person who you wrote the check to. What would that do?
Bounce check.
Bounce check. Does anybody like getting a bounce check?
No.
No, you wouldn't like getting a bounce check. So do not make it a practice of writing checks for amounts that you do not have. Okay, so this is why it is always important to know that you have sufficient monies in the account before you write a check. Now, in some cases, not very often nowadays, but it used to be done very, very often, is that persons would take a post-dated check. It used to be very popular, but nobody trusts that anymore because of persons who have taken persons for a ride. Post-dated checks is, let us say, for example, today is the 28th, and you know that there's money coming into the account by a later date, let's say by November 1st, and you date the check for, let's say, November 2nd, just to give it a day to sort of settle in the account. And persons, if they trust you, will take the check. It means that they cannot cash the check until after or until the date that you put on it. That's a post-dated check, because that is when you know that their money is in the account. But like I said, not many people do this anymore. But in the case where you are writing checks, if in the event you look at your bank statement and you realize that a check you wrote on your cash receipts and payments journal does not appear on your bank statement, what does that mean? Yes, Abigail Atkinson.
It means that the person has not cashed the check yet.
It means the person has not cashed the check as yet. Very good. And if the person has not cashed the check as yet, what should you do?
You give them a little more time to check, or you could maybe call them to give them a reminder or something. But in most cases, you just give them the time to cash the check.
Well, in a case where you're looking at your finances and wanting to make sure that you keep track of everything, what you need to do is you need to ensure that you do not touch
Okay.
the monies on the account until you see that check come in, especially if the amount would send the account into overdraft. Do not touch that money. Everybody gets that? Okay, I don't know if it is a culture that us St. Lucians have, but I have seen it so many times, and I can tell you that because I used to work at a bank. I worked at a bank for 3 years. 3 years in one bank and 6 months in another bank. I can tell you what I have seen. I've seen some people do some crazy things. They literally would just assume out of thin air that they have money in the account. And then they would write a check and then say, I was hoping or I thought it had. It's just as simple as checking the balance. You cannot cash a check out of thin air, because at the end of the day, yes, you would get the item that you paid for at the time, but at the end of the day, the person who you wrote the check to is now going to be looking for you. That's bad business for you, and you don't want that. And it's also going to be a bad reputation between you and the bank, because if you keep doing it repeatedly, guess what they're going to do? They're going to cancel your checking account. And you don't want that. So always try to ensure that you keep track of your bank account by looking at your statements. If it is a checking account that you have, you look at all the checks that you wrote on your checkbook and compare that to the checks that came in on the bank statement. If the checks have not come in yet, please do not touch the money. Okay, do not touch the money. Who was the individual who, Abigail Atkinson? You are very, very, very nice lady by saying you would remind the person to cash their check. You're a very, very nice lady, I must say. You're so very nice. I know very few people who would do that.
We'll do that.
Hey, don't forget to cash your check. Your money's waiting for you. Yay.
Yes.
Not many people will do that. So you're a very nice lady. You're one of a kind. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that in you. But, and yes, Vernon is correct. This happens in the States as well. So please look at your statements, print them out every month, compare them to your journal. But you cannot compare anything if you don't keep track of your finances. So if you never liked doing it before, make it your best friend. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. It's better to be organized than to be disorganized. People don't play by their money. All right, ladies? Okay, Manuela, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask me, since I have the two businesses, is it advice to have two separate accounts for it? So I don't
Yes.
get things mixed
Yes,
up?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
You can use the same bank, but different accounts.
okay.
Okay, everybody understands that? So if you have 5 different businesses, 5 different accounts. Okay, because you have to reconcile each one. So the more businesses you have, the more reconciling you need to do. And yes, as Alma said, it gets a little tedious, but it's better for you to do it and do it well. It shows that you are very organized and professional businesswoman. If you know that math is not your thing and accounts is not your thing, you hire someone to do it for you. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody loves finances. Not everybody loves figures. How many of you on this meeting, on this call right now, love math? How many of you, by a raise of hands, how many of you can say you love math? 2 people raise their hands. I bless you. Bless you, more power to you. I hate math. I hate math, but guess what? Because I'm a businesswoman, I need to know these things. Okay, so as a businesswoman, you need to know these things. Even if you're not an expert in it, you need to be aware and you need to know the how. Okay, especially if you're trying to hire an expert and the expert is trying to give you information and trying to pull the hood over your eyes, you will be able to tell the difference. Learn these things for yourself. All right. And Vernon says she likes it as just taking and getting, yeah, it is very time consuming, extremely. But at the end of the day, you will really be happy that you did it. Okay. We have, let's see, less than 5 minutes left on this call. When it does cut out, please just come right back in and we will continue from where we left off. But we are definitely going to be finishing this because I need to ensure that you get it, because the assignment deals specifically with these transactions. I need to ensure that you get it. Okay, so if anybody does not understand, please don't hesitate to say so. Don't wait until after the class, please. Abigail, Charlie, why does your head hurt? Is it because you had a long day or is it because of the task at hand or actually working out the figures? What's making your head hurt? Long day at work. I understand. I understand, love. All right, so we have less than 5 minutes on this one. Let's continue going. When it's close to the time, I will let you know. As I said, when it clocks out, I will let you know when to log back in because I have to allow the recording to render. So as soon as it's done, I will give you the cue to log back in. Okay, ladies? Because I have to save each recording. All right, let's continue.
I update my cash receipts and payments journal whenever I make deposits or write checks. If you wait too long to record items, you may forget about them, or you may make mistakes in the journal. By spending a little time each day to make sure I record items and make sure nothing is missing, I save myself a lot of time at the end of the month. While your business may eventually grow to become a very large business, it will start out small. Small businesses like ours use something called cash accounting. This just means that we only record things when cash is exchanged. We record revenue when we get cash or checks, and we record expenses when we pay cash or write checks. In the U.S., businesses with under $10 million of revenue are allowed to use this method of accounting, and it's much easier than other methods of accounting. But even though small business owners only need to record revenue and expenses when cash is exchanged, they should still keep track of some non-cash business items. We're going to look at those items next. The first of these items is called accounts payable. An account payable just means that you purchased goods or services from someone and agreed to pay them in the future. For example, my electric company sends me a bill for the electricity my business used last month. That bill tells me the amount that I have to pay and the date that I have to pay it by. This is an example of an account payable.
Okay, before we go any further, what do you understand by this? Why is this called an account payable? Who can tell me?
Because it's stuff that needs to be paid out. These are expenses.
It's an expense, but there's a specific reason why it's an account payable.
Because it's bills or invoices that need to be paid at a certain time.
Okay, basically it is something that is paid in the future. Okay, you don't have to pay it today for today. So you'll get a bill, right? And then it will tell you this bill is due by, and it's a future date. Okay, that's an account payable. Everybody understands that? Okay, we have less than 1 minute. Okay, let's continue.
I won't record my electricity bill as an expense until I've paid the bill. However, I need a way to keep track of my bills and make sure I pay them on time. Every time I receive a bill, I put it in my bills folder. I arrange the bills by due date. Since my catering business is small and I don't have too many bills, I only look through this folder once a week. When I pay a bill, I write the check number on the bill and the date I paid it. Then I move the bill into a folder labeled Bills Paid. I keep a separate Bills Paid folder for each month of the year, and I make sure that the date is written on each folder. Keeping your bills and receipts is important in case you need to show your records for tax or bank purposes. Your bills and receipts will help explain why you wrote checks for certain amounts.
Everybody get that so far? Okay, so the recording is, the call is going to end at any point in time. I will give you the cue in the WhatsApp group when to log back in. I have to let the recording save first. Okay, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to stop sharing and stop the recording.